Hi, in this video I will show you how to shoot cars. I will tell you about my gear, my camera settings and my gimbal work. And during the video I will show you my POV of the latest work for one of the Porsche dealership. So, let's go! There are four main things to get when you want to start shooting car video. You need a camera, you need a good lens, you need a polarization filter or ND/PL, and of course a gimbal. For a gimbal, I use DJI RS4 Pro. I also got a backup, RS3 Pro, but I don't recommend to buy a backup at first. It's better to buy one gimbal, focus on other stuff to buy. So, what gimbal you should buy at first? I definitely recommend the RS3 or RS4 Pro, but if you are on a tight budget, I would recommend to buy some older version like DJI RS2. To be honest, I don't recommend buying the mini version of the gimbal. Buy the bigger setups, which can lift heavier cameras. Because remember, now you can have a light camera, but in a couple of weeks or months, you can get a new camera, a new lens. And now you've got a problem because your gimbal is so shitty that can't lift bigger camera. And now you have to buy a bigger gimbal. And probably you have to sell your mini gimbal, and you have to wait when you sell because you possibly don't have money for buying a gimbal, and you have to wait when you sell. And all that things stops you from moving faster in your career. So just when you buy gimbal or other stuff, think about the future and buy something more. Like, don't go with the lowest possible product you can get. Go a little higher. And I know that it means spending a little more money, but maybe now you will wait, but then you will move faster. So I definitely recommend heavier setups. And it looks cool also. And remember, even if you get the best possible gimbal and you don't know how to set it, how to work with it, it will be just a disaster. You need to learn a lot when you buy a gimbal. Just be patient, practice ninja walking and practice with other settings. Just change the settings, see how the gimbal feels in your hand, how the deadband works. You need to know all the things, and then you will feel the gimbal and you will get smooth motion. And now I will show you my gimbal workflow. For this, I will use my old 6300, DJI RS4 Pro and my old fieldwork monitor. Let's go. Let's start with balancing a gimbal. We've got RS4 Pro, we've got some HDMI, old fieldwork monitor, and A6300. Probably the gimbal will be completely out of balance because normally I put Sony A7 IV on this. So first thing I do is unlocking the first axis, and now you can see that it's completely out of balance. So first thing first, I move it up. I see now that I didn't lock this, so I try to balance it now. Okay, now it looks perfect. So yeah, that was quite fast. It's not the heavy setup, so you don't even be completely perfect with doing this. But if you got, for example, 70 to 200, it's better to be perfect, but it's really good. Okay, I didn't put the zoom lens on here because I know that the gimbal will do the work. But if you got some heavier setup like A7 IV with a cage or some bigger lens, try to move the zoom in the middle and then try to balance it. As you see, I move this knob just forward, backward, and I adjust it. Alright, so let's move to the roll axis. It's terrible now, so let's unlock this and move it to the left. Okay, good. Now I take gimbal in my hand, I unlock the third axis, and it should be like here all the time. So what we need is just unlocking the knob and move it forward. And now let's see. Oh, it's still too little. Okay, now it's perfect. Make sure before balancing a gimbal that your battery is on and your SD card is also in the camera. You will save some time during the balancing. And now, as you see, I use dual handle grip from DJI. I think it's the best. Back in time, I used the F handle. It was from here, and you were holding the whole gimbal like that. And that it's not completely the best grip that I felt to use to shoot cars. And after a couple of months that I used the F handle or also the briefcase handle from DJI, and I see that a lot of people still using it. It goes like here, and you can hold it here like that, and that it also not fits for my workflow because I don't know where to put the monitor, and if I put it here I don't see the camera, and that is a big disadvantage because when you've got some briefcase handle here and your monitor here and you only look at the external monitor, you can't see exact settings. Of course, you can put the clear HDMI on the monitor, but most of the monitors in the market need some time to show the image from the camera. It takes a couple of seconds. Atomos Shinobi, what I was watching, needs like 20 seconds. So if you want to shoot something like run and gun video and you are on the track or on the event, you will not see what you're recording because you can, of course, you can record. You can press the record button, but you don't see what you're recording. And having this monitor, you see immediately what are you recording. So I decided to put the monitor here, and when I've got the external monitor here, I use other cables, but the 860-300 I've got only the mini or micro HDMI. I don't exactly remember the name. Yeah, but doesn't matter. And now I've got my setup. Of course, you have to turn it on. Okay. And now you have to start calibration because the whole setup has different weight than before. Alright, and now we've got everything set. As you can see, I use the small rig monitor handle and only one screw because it's faster to unscrew it and it keeps very well, so I don't use two screws. And it's not about the weight, but about the being quick, changing the setup during the shooting events or some other things. Okay, and now the whole setup is ready. And as you can see, you can work. It works perfectly. And now, the most important thing, when you're shooting cars, you want the low angles. And how to do it properly. A lot of people do it like this, but it's not the best way to shoot low angles Of course you can, especially when you've got some small setups, but if you want to do it properly, you have to use your gimbal in the same position like that. I mean, the whole axis works in the same positions. So what I do is just unplug the cable and I click the button, the trigger, and now I do this move. I still holding the trigger and I rotate it. And now I can lift up my monitor, plug it one more time, and I can work. I can even see on my external monitor what's going on. Now the camera is off, so you can see nothing. But normally you can work like that. And it's very convenient. Like you can go really low. And if you need to do something from higher angle, you can still just hold your hands high and you can shoot. So that's the best way to use your gimbal right, to use it in the most convenient for the motors position. This is my workflow, and of course you need to know how to work with a gimbal, but I think this is gonna be the next episode about this because it will be too long. So these are my settings for my gimbal. I use it both for RS3 Pro and RS4 Pro. Just you can screenshot it and copy to your DJI Ronin app and try it out. Let me know in the comments if you want to change something on how do you feel about these settings. So now you know the basics about the gimbal. Let's talk about the camera. I use Sony a7 IV. I think the price and the quality which the Sony a7 IV gives you is great. One of the best in the market, I think. But you can still go with a7 III. It's still a great camera and quite cheap right now. I would recommend also looking up for the Nikon. Now the Nikon is much better than in the past. Look at the Z5 or Z6. They are great cameras. They shoot even internal RAW. I definitely would go with the Sony or Nikon. So with a camera you need a lens. I use mostly 2470 G Master Mark II f2.8. If I have to choose one lens, I would go with it, definitely. So if you don't want to spend tons of money on the camera lens, you can definitely go with Tamron. I've been shooting Tamron for like 2 or 3 years. I used 28 to 70 millimeters f2.8, and it's a great lens. Still, you've got very good quality for very good price. I used the first version of the lens, and then the second version, Mark II, came out, and it's even better. But if you still want to spend as little money as possible, just buy the Mark I, and you will be very pleased with the quality. Filters. Let's talk about the filters. I've been using tons of filters like Marumi, like Nisi, like some Chinese things that they don't have any name. And now I use Polar Pro. Not because everyone using Polar Pro on the YouTube and Instagram. I just love the quality, and I love the possibility of having one glass in front of my lens, and inside one glass I've got ND and PL. So they are great for car shooting. I've been using Nisi filters, and I bought the ND Nisi filter and Polar filter, and I stuck them onto my camera, and I got some color shifts when I stuck 2 Nisi filters, and I had some problems with it. So now I use Polar Pro, and I've got no problems with that, Maybe apart from that, I have to change my filters when it's dark or very bright, because I've got ND16/PL and ND32/PL. It depends on situation where I am. I had to just change the filters, but I used to it, and that's my workflow. So you have to think if it fits you or not. Maybe you will be pleased with some magnetic filters. I think the Polar Pro with Peter McKinnon made something like Helix. To be honest, I don't want to buy it. I think you will get some problems with that. Just holding the gimbal and adjusting the VND and PL on two rings, which are not very big. And I think it's better to have the constant ND. For me, it's working. You have to think what will work for you. Don't go with some magnetic filters without any extra lock protection, because it can fall off, especially when you do some rolling shots. So keep in mind that it's better to have threaded filters. So now let's talk about my basic camera settings. I use, of course, 4K, 25 FPS or 50 FPS in the crop mode, also in 4K, because the A7 IV wouldn't go without crop when you're shooting 4K 50 FPS, but it's okay for me. I used to it. And of course, I use S-Log 3, 10 bits, 4:2, and I use this codec. And I don't go with all intra codec because it doesn't make a big difference in quality, but it's a big difference in file sizes. So I wouldn't recommend that for casual shooting. Maybe if you shoot some big production, go with all intra. I use continuous autofocus. I try to keep my focus in the center of the frame. Sometimes I change it. I don't usually do the touch to focus. I just keep the center of the frame in the focus, and I stick to it. And of course, I shoot in native ISO. I try to keep with ISO 800. Sometimes I go with 3200. That's basically the best ISO for A7 IV. But it depends on your camera. So you have to check your settings, your camera specs, what's the best for your camera. So what other camera stuff you can get? I would recommend, of course, more lenses. Like 24-70 is great, but sometimes you need something a bit wider. I use Sony Power Zoom F4 16-35. It's a great tool. It's a light lens, and F4 is quite enough to shoot videos. So don't worry with F4. I also use Sony 70-200 F4, also F4. I choose the F4 not because of the budget. Of course, I'm pleased that I bought the cheaper lens, because f2.8 is much more expensive. I choose the F4 because it's lighter and it's better to work on a gimbal with some lighter setups, because I sometimes use 70-200 on a gimbal, and it's doing a great job. That's my three lenses that I use all the time. Of course, I want to get more lenses, but if I could recommend to you three lenses that you should get, I would go with 24-70, 16-35, and 70-200. Of course, there are some other lenses, like you can buy new Sony 15-150, and it's a great lens, but it's very expensive. So there are a lot of opportunities, and it depends what you need. So that was a brief video about how to start shooting cars. If you want more information, let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching. See you next time.